There's our best friend. See no gremlin. Gonna keep him in the shot. Here we go. There we go. Hey, and there he is. Well, let's not wait. Grabbing you, Tim. 1 second. It's usually that easy. All right. First try.
Look at that.
And it worked.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving me the hot tip of not going on using the desktop. I would have done it for sure.
That was the only time we ever had like a it's just not working issue. And it was, I don't know why. I mean, you figured, but whatever. It's the only advice I have anymore is
that's good.
As long as you got Wi-Fi and a phone, I think you're done. That's it.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's right here. It's bigger screen,
Yeah, we had his name Jeffrey Wiseman from Back to the Future was all excited to share a screen, and I'm like, we can't. It's not how it works. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. And then it wasn't as easy. It was kind of like trying to show, and I'm like, we got a lot of it on here, a lot of cool like behind the scenes stuff, some cool video and picture. But I was like, of all the times it's not working, it's when people have behind the scenes from Back to the Future
but
to put on here.
Actually, really neat.
And he was so excited. I'm like, I don't know. I think we restarted a couple times, but yeah, it ended up being okay. He made it work. Well, thanks for saying yes, Tim. This is awesome. I'm sure a lot of people.
That's very cool.
Yeah, a lot of people, I'm sure my age, especially in the 30s and 40s, there's no way you can mistake a Goosebumps cover. And I'm not going to pigeonhole you, and you've only ever done one thing. I'm not trying to be that way. But
it's fun.
But holy shit, this is that imagery, man, is like burned into, like, I'm going to say there's probably like 10 covers that anyone will go Goosebumps. Like there's like the big, I don't know if it's like if it's the first few that came out, but I feel like they exploded onto our scene. It was just like, now you're reading these, and it was like these creepy books, the unmistakable covers, and the first, I'm going to say 10 or 15 for sure, are like, absolutely, actually, they're all the same. It's your style that's recognizable. But I remember those first few were like the hand coming around the door and the dummy and the mask. Like, dude. So first of all, great shit. Let's start with that.
Thank you. Much appreciated. I'll say this more than once. It's very cool that here we are all these years later, and something that you did when you were 10 years old still is cool. And or perceived as cool. I always enjoy what I do, but there's plenty I've done that nobody thinks is cool. So, but the Goosebumps thing really hit. You, like you say, you are in that age group where it would be really difficult for you to get away from it.
It's cool seeing. I have some buddies that are the biggest, toughest looking dudes, and I sent them what we were doing tonight, and they're like, "Oh, I remember that one with a horror lamp." Like they just turned into an 11-year-old, just like that, like sitting on their Harley going, "Oh man, that one freaked me out. What was the one with the dummy?" I'm like, "Exactly, yeah, the mask, the dummy, yeah." It was all good stuff. But could you give us your bio, like your intros, for if anybody's just jumping in? And
I am Tim Jacobus. I am best known for doing the first 100 Goosebumps covers. It started with Welcome to Dead House in 1992, so we're a little bit over 30 years since we produced our first Goosebumps. Although I've done maybe 100, 115, actually nobody really knows how many I did. I did a ton of other books. I actually did more books that weren't Goosebumps than were Goosebumps. So altogether, I'm probably nearing that 400 book cover mark. So I've been doing this a really long time, and the one that makes people smile the most is Goosebumps.
I was thinking this a second ago too. I remember that was the first time that, as a kid, you cared about a book series enough to want them like lined up, because the the art kind of carried over, kind of waterfalled onto the side, at least a little bit. And you see like, well, this was yellow and blue. This one's like green and pink. This one, and it was sequential. Like, we didn't care about encyclopedias. We didn't care about like print. We were kids. But then, man, you'd have like a miss, like your friend was reading book 7. You're like, I need to make sure I need to get 7, you know, Scholastic Book Fair's coming up, and I need to get like 11, 12, 13, and now there's this gap. I need to rebuy 7. I need them all to be, and we didn't care about that stuff. You know, it was like, we didn't have bookshelves. We didn't really care. It was like a stack of books next to Sesame Street was probably the last stuff we were reading. And then all of a sudden it was like, I mean, would that have been grade school for sure? It was, I think it was probably like at a book fair. And then you saw, maybe the first couple came out, I can't recall, but we were all over them.
Yeah, it was really incredible that R.L. Stine could pump out 1 book a month. I mean, that's great for me. You know, doing a cover a month is not a lot. Writing 125-page book every month, that's a lift. I didn't
know that. I didn't know they were monthly.
What kept you guys engrossed was there was a new one coming out, and you know, it was a real serial setup. And but going back to what you were talking about, having each one of the spines even being color coordinated. I was doing the covers. They asked me, they liked the way I was using rich colors and asked me to kind of lean into that, and I continued to do it. But what was great is the book designers then got into the act as well, and every Goosebumps cover, not only was the art different in its makeup of color, they also, the Goosebumps logo, the border, the spine, they all, you know, they would grab colors out of the artwork that I gave them, put that on the book. So like you say, when you lined it up, they had their, you know, it was the rainbow. Yeah.
And also, I forgot to say this in the beginning, guys, I see a lot of people coming in now. At the bottom of the screen, you can actually submit a question, and I'll see the tally, so that when we're all done, you can actually get your question answered. I really want people to be able to ask things that I don't have written down, too. So it should be the little, the word bubble with the question mark, I think, on my end. It should be the same on your end. How did you get the Goosebumps gig?
I had been, so I did my first book cover in, I'm guessing, you know, 84. So I was in the business a couple, you know, 8 years before Goosebumps started. And at the beginning, you know, you're doing 2 books a year. Then as you get going, you're doing 4 books a year. I had done a couple of books with Scholastic in the prior 4 or 5 years. Not a lot, no series work, and no horror work. But I was there consistently, and in the illustration business, almost more important than your art skills is your ability to get stuff on time, get done on time, and be consistent. You know, you can't have a really good one and the next one be, you know, be a stinker. So they were well aware that this thing was going to be once a month and we were going to have to crank them, and they felt that I could keep up with the pace. The other thing is I wasn't doing it, you know, like I was in between book covers. If I was working on something, it would have went just to the next guy. So there was a real, you know, standing in the right place at the right time, and the bus came along and I wasn't stupid enough not to get on.
Right. Did they tell you it's going to be 100 plus right off the jump, or was it more like,
no,
really?
No, actually the whole thing was the opposite. Goosebumps, they told RL, they told me the same thing. They were going, this thing's probably not going anywhere. It's only going to be a couple of books.
Jeez.
They even asked me to take a pay cut on the art, because they're going, yeah, the actual line that was told to me was, listen, we don't think this thing is going anywhere. Will you be willing to do it for a couple of $100 less? And we promise you we'll put you on something good after this is over.
Wow.
So again, nobody had any huge expectations for its success. Obviously they were, you know, they were thinking failure.
That's a common, I think it's a common thing. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Man, that it's,
yeah.
You can't plan, you know, the biggest thing, the biggest craze, the biggest,
this one, you know, the minute you think something is a huge success, it's not.
Right.
There was fear because nobody had tried horror books for that age group. It wasn't proven to be anything. Again, the main concern was we're going to make something that's so scary, the kids will buy it, they'll freak out, they'll be in their parents' bed, and the parents will get pissed, and that will be the end of it after 3 books.
Right.
And luckily, RL has that ability to just skate that fine line of fun and mild fear. And my artwork's not it's not overwhelming. It's got a comic, cartoonish feel to it. So
yeah,
it's
that
not
in between
overly realistic. So you can get into it and go, all right, yeah, this is scary, but it's not freaking me out.
So mostly acrylics, what you do?
Yes. So back then, no digital art.
Right.
Yes, that was acrylics, and it was a combination of brush and airbrush.
Oh,
I
cool.
had started in the business painting cars and motorcycle tanks when I was a teenager. And I liked the way the airbrush worked, and when I went to art school, I began to work the airbrush into some of my other projects, and it gave it that smooth, polished look. And that also gives it all those highlights where you see all the glows in the Goosebumps where there's a spark.
The pink, the neon, right.
And and the pinks and the neons, totally 90s.
Yeah,
and
that's the best part. Yeah, the color scheme alone.
But the acrylics was a key element. Shipping it was a little bit of a pain in the neck. The world's different now. The world is digital, but back then, no such thing.
Did you get to meet RL beforehand, or was it kind of like you're over here, he's over there, you're each kind of doing your thing?
You're more spot on with the latter. Yeah, he's over there, I'm over here. We actually worked for a year and a half, 2 years, so we were 20 books in before he was speaking somewhere. I happened to be in the city. The book people said, you should go down there, and I got a chance to meet him and shake his hand. So we were in it a long time before we actually got together. Now what's cool is social media exists and you can text everybody. So we text each other on a regular basis. Yeah.
R.L. Stine and you.
Yeah.
Cool.
And our number one transaction is when we're on Instagram and you see somebody post a picture of a new Goosebumps tattoo.
That was going to be a question for sure. Yeah.
We passed that along to, do you see this one? Do you see this one?
Oh, cool. Does one stick out in your head? Do you remember like one specific Goosebumps tattoo? You were like, I don't know how they come up with this, but this is awesome.
It's funny. I've seen a ton of them. There's a couple of really amazing sleeves.
The
only reason why I'm bringing this one up is there's a young woman who has the Goosebumps Curse of Camp Cold Lake on her hand in black and white. And I remember seeing it for the first time on Instagram and I was like, oh, that's so cool because it's in black and white.
Right.
And it was on the top of her hand.
Cool.
And I was at a comic book convention 2 weeks ago in Florida, and she came up to the booth and, I got to see it in real life.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
That's great.
It was excellent.
Does it still, I imagine if you made a painting for a book, someone took that in, they wanted to put it on their body permanently. Does that play, how to phrase this question? It's not like you came up with it on your own and someone loved it. It is like a commercial piece, but they still loved it. You know what I mean? Like, does that still feel like this is my original work? They got it on them and I love it. It doesn't bug you at all that it's like...
No, it's so, listen, I love my art. And, I sweated over it and made it happen. And usually I'm the guy who likes it the most. And the fact that somebody, that this made an impression on them at some point in their life, that they now want to put it on themselves permanently is almost incomprehensible to me. And it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And I love it. And, for what everybody has their own individual reason why they've decided to go ahead and do it. I don't have any tattoos. So, I have this whole thing that, if I'm going to get one, it has to have this huge overall meaning to it. And again, to see it and go, wow, you thought that was cool enough to put on yourself permanently is that's that's the ultimate fan.
And you know, we all started with I just need one good idea, and then it just turns into everything you've ever liked ever. Like,
well,
where do I have space?
The thing I've laughed about it is I know when I get my first one, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a tattoo gun because I'm going to need to figure it out. And I'll be the only guy who has tattoos everywhere except on his right arm because I won't be able to bend around to get my own.
There's one right over here for the same reason. I have to go to my guy again and go, all right, we're out of room. So all the crap that I did on my thighs when I thought I could do it needs to be covered up. And maybe it's time for Goosebumps. Maybe it's time for a Goosebumps theme, but in an American traditional. Maybe that'll be the next one.
Oh, I like
that'll
that.
Be the tradition.
Yeah,
that'll be the challenge for my guy. I'm sure he's watching on. That's not the easiest thing to do. We'll do it. You know, if you want it, we'll do it.
Give me some time. Give me some thoughts.
And I saw that how I got a hold of you is I saw an ad. You know, of course, every device is listening to you at all times. I think I said Goosebumps more than once in a week, and Facebook started going, you know, that guy's selling prints.
Yeah.
And the ad came up, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, first I went in like, well, there's probably just like one or two available. No, there's a ton available.
Yeah, we keep it. So it started with during the pandemic, you know, we all had the same reactions and the same fears, you know, business is shutting down. Are we going to be able to, you know, keep the lights on? And, you know, I lost some business, but found other, you know, like there was a diversification. So it didn't impact me overall too much. And I live here with my son, and I started to see the news reports where people were lining up and, you know, at food banks looking for food. And most of the, you know, the part that was the, you know, that got my attention the most were most of the people that they were interviewing were going, look, I've never had to do this before. And, you know, I'm struggling, and, you know, I'm here because you know, I need some food. And it really hit me, and I'm going, well, you know, what can we do to, you know, generate some money to, you know, you shouldn't be hungry.
Right.
You know, bottom line, you shouldn't be hungry. And so said, all right, well, I've been talking about this, doing Goosebumps prints for years. I never follow through. So let's do this. And so it started with, we started with a half a dozen, and we keep adding a couple. So I think we're up to 16 now.
Nice.
And I'm getting ready to get 2 more into the mix. And it's been great because the people down the street, so the food bank is only about a mile away.
Oh, wow.
And the way we do it is everybody buys a print. We take $10 from every print that's sold, and we buy food, and we buy it through the internet, through Walmart. You know, they have the pantry, then they ship it all over here. And then we load it into the truck and drive it down the street. Now, the people down the street aren't hip to a lot that's going on in the world, you know, other than they're very nice people who help people who are in need. And they think I work for Walmart because all the boxes have Walmart on it.
Yeah, right.
No. Never mind. It's okay. We're just going to keep bringing
Walmart
stuff.
Yeah, right. You got it.
Doesn't matter what you think.
Doesn't matter. That's fine.
We're good. So finally, you know, we've been going for, I think this month might be our 3-year mark.
Oh, cool.
For deliverables. And, you know, they know who we are now, and we've become friends with some of the people. And it's been great because the woman who runs it has been able to show us some stuff and say, hey, you know, you and the people who are supporting you are really making a difference in this, you know, at our food bank. And we've been able to help a lot more people than we have in the past. Yeah. And it's a great, you know, it's a great testimony to, you know, the Goosebumps fans and how they got on board with it.
And I'll share for everyone watching. I'll share that link once this posts in a few minutes once we're done. But I'll make sure I have the right link, and I'll put it in the info below too, so everybody can just click it and go straight off. I know I'm buying a couple. I wanted it for myself, but then I asked. I hope he's not watching. I asked a buddy's wife, "Does he still? He loves that one cover." She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, I think they're selling them. I think I'm just gonna have to grab one. Then I told someone else I was doing it. He's like, man, you think he has that one with the mask? I'm like, we're gonna end up buying like 50 of these things.
Yeah, I've tried to pick a lot of the heavy hitters up front, And what's nice now is, you know, people are volunteering. Hey, you know, what about this one? What about this one? And,
cool.
you know, there's so many of them out there. So we'll get to them all eventually, I hope.
And originals I saw too, right? Like non-Goosebumps, just
Yes,
original works
correct.
too.
Yeah, the other
Cool.
stuff that, you know, I like to show stuff that I'm working on now. It has a real Goosebumps flair to it. Yeah, I mean, you can tell it's my stuff.
Right.
But, you know, I also wanted you to know that I didn't stop creating art in the 90s. You know, we're still at it. So
The question was, is anything either coming up or current projects or anything you're working on?
Yeah, there's a couple of cool ones, but I'm not allowed to talk about them.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's, you know, and there's a couple that drive me nuts. Not the ones I'm working on, but there's ones where you sign NDAs, you go ahead and do the art comes out real cool, and for whatever reason, the project never comes to, you know, comes to the surface. And now there's this cool art that just sits there forever and ever. No one gets to see it except for me. And it's hard to reach out to people and go, hey, I know we didn't do this, but I'd sure like to show this.
Can we wrap this up, please?
Yeah,
exactly.
Just give me a green light. I think people would think it's cool. Anyway, so I always have something going on. Luckily, it's wonderful. The coolest thing is you guys, the original Goosebumps fans, are all the age you said. They're in their 30s and 40s, and you're all doing stuff. You're in bands. You're art directors. You work for ski companies and skateboard companies, and the emails all start the same. Hi, I was a Goosebumps fan when I was a kid.
Nice.
And I'm looking for you to do X, Y, and Z. So it's great. The old fans are the new clients.
That's cool. My boys are just too young still for the books, but I only have maybe like 5 or 6 that were mine originally. So I know I'm going to be sitting there on eBay like, all right, I need the 100 for sure. And then it's probably going to be like, yeah, but there's another. It like kind of steered into, there was like, the Dummy had his own line of books, right? Wasn't that its own? Yeah, right.
There's a bunch of. There was the Horrorland series.
That's right. Yeah.
Up after me, and then now it's Slappy's World.
Slappy's World.
And RL is he's still putting them out. So there'll be stuff for your kids.
Yeah.
You know, whether they go vintage or they want the stuff hot off the press.
I mean, if you could see this room, they're going to start with vintage. They're going to start with 80s, 90s before we do anything else. They're going to get a big taste of what I had first. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, on Amazon you can buy these metal tins that have 6 books in them. Ooh. And they're the classics. There's 3 different tins, so you can get 18 of the books. They're reprints, obviously, but it's the covers that I did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
So you don't.
That's sweet.
You don't have to hit every garage sale on the street.
Yeah, exactly. How do you like the convention circuit? I'm guessing you really hate it, having people come up to you and say how much they like your work, based on this conversation. But I know some people. I've talked to some people who they love seeing the fans. They want to do it, but they just don't have the best time at the conventions. I don't know what's happened because
I don't know what's happening to them. I haven't found the downside yet. It's a running joke at the house because, like I said, I live with my son. He's 24. I can guarantee you he's not telling me how wonderful I am at any given point during the day.
Right.
So, to hop on a plane, I was just in Denver. Weather was beautiful. People come up and say nice things, and it's nice to have a conversation. And, I sign some stuff for them. I make a couple of bucks, and I come home. I don't know what the downside is. So I don't know what people are experiencing where they're annoyed by this whole thing, but to me this is really nice.
And I've been going for years and years to the conventions. I just never stopped as a kid, and people will ask me like, oh, then everybody must just be so nice, you're going up, you're paying them. Like, there are horror stories like anything else in the world, and I'm not going to name drop, but people that was really excited to meet, like kind of a once in a lifetime, these 3 people, same room, and I left, and at one point, I handed a kid a signed figure. I go, I don't want it. The experience I just had, I don't want this anywhere near my desk, my office. You can have it.
So I've been doing it for a short time. It got started just before COVID, had the years off. So maybe 5 years, and it was just a couple at the beginning. This year I'm doing, maybe 18.
Nice.
And Yeah. So my experience with other people who are on my side of the desk has been great. I haven't run into anybody who was but I have had people come up to my table and go, man, so and so,
Right.
Holy smokes. And that hasn't been my experience, but obviously, just like everything else in the world, there's all kinds of people out there
to ruin it.
Yeah.
for someone else.
Well, and that's the killer part is, somebody that you've followed and you've been a fan of over the years. And, now you're getting an opportunity just to say, quick hello, shake their hand, get them to sign something. And they do something, like you say, now it's over.
Yeah.
Like it's a tainted memory. All those years of, that went along with it that was cool, it's all out the window. Yeah. And I don't know.
Sad but true.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever come to Pittsburgh, I'll be your PA. I'll make it the most enjoyable experience.
Awesome.
Your line will love it. We'll be getting a crowd just from standing in line.
Yeah. Pittsburgh's on the short list. There's somebody else who was telling me I needed to come to Pittsburgh, so this might be the karma that we need here to follow up and see what's up. Well, what's your? Do you know of the events the one that you like the best?
So the biggest that's exploded over the past maybe 5 to 10 years is Steel City Con. That is the top. Yep. So a lot of vendors are a little disappointed because it's becoming like an autograph con. Yeah. But for us autograph guys, or like interview guys, like we want to talk and interact, I don't really go there to shop. So it's kind of like this, but I want my local vendors, my local toy guys, and I want everybody to be happy, but it's just not realistic. But there's a lot of like little niche cons coming around. In Altoona, which is just like an hour and 50 from Pittsburgh, is Sci-Fi Valley Con. All right. That's yearly. We make the yearly trip out there. It was just maybe a month ago. There's a lot of little smaller niche cons, and they keep popping up too. So I mean, anywhere near Pittsburgh, in Ohio, West Virginia, New York, there's a ton popping up. Yeah.
It's it started out with just looking way broadly, and I was kind of traveling far, and then just this year I started to go, all right, well, what's some of the smaller stuff that's going on that I can get in the car? Just drive to and not have to hop on the plane, because air travel is you go, oh, that's so great, you get there so fast, but when you actually go, okay, I left my house at this time, and then I drove 40 minutes and sat for 2 hours and then got on the plane, and all of a sudden your hour and a half flight is 6 hours long.
I'm a road trip guy.
I can drive far in 6 hours.
Yeah, I used to play around a little bit in a band, and it was driving around is the way to do it.
Yeah, perfect example. Plus the limitations on how much you can bring on the plane, and all that stuff. So this year was the first time I started to chuck the stuff in the back of the truck and go, all right, we're driving. Let's see how this works out. And there's a lot of positives. The idea that I feel like stopping now.
Oh yeah, right.
Or as simple as I have to go to the bathroom and I'm
hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry. All of it. Yeah. Or this is good enough. I'll stop here and stay in a hotel here.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit more options.
What little chunk of the country are you in, without getting too specific?
Yeah.
Jersey.
Yeah. I'm 40 miles outside of New York City.
Oh, I grew up in New York City.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I spent time in Cape May, down in southern tip of Jersey.
Yeah.
We were it's the Coast Guard base down there, and then we went to New York City. There's a base, and then retired up in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
I'm a military brat. I should say my dad did, but it was. I loved it down there. Cape May. I took my wife back to see both of those spots. Yeah. It was Governor's Island in New York. If you've ever been to, I think it's a national park now, but I used to live on the base. It was awesome. They tore down. It's a candy cane shaped island, man-made island. The ice cream is historical, and the cone was just commercial and residential. So they bulldozed the cone, made whatever is there now, and they kept like the fort and all the cannons and all that stuff. So I went back to show her, look at my old crappy apartment building, my wife, and the whole ferry boat is filled with like 20-somethings dressed up, and I'm going like, I don't know why. What's this? There's a tour. Is someone playing there? And there's an oyster bar. You get off the ferry, and there's an oyster bar. And I'm like, this is where I deliver newspapers, where this oyster bar is. And so we walked around the whole place. And then we started seeing it pop up on TV shows and movies, and it's just this park. There's these rangers that took us around on a private tour. It was, yeah, I love the East, man. I lived in LA for a minute, but I was always going to be on this side of the country.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm 40 miles outside of New York City. And, when we were younger, so I was a lifeguard as a kid. And so that meant you worked every weekend. And then when you had your days off, which was generally just Monday, but sometimes Monday and Tuesday, you didn't want to go to the beach. We worked at the beach, so we were always going to the city. And the city's changed 50 times in that span of time. And, some for the good, some for the bad, and then sometimes back again. Right. So, yeah, out where you were, it doesn't surprise me. That's cool, though, to go someplace that you knew real well. Yeah. And then, like you say, hop off the ferry and go, holy, look at this.
Yeah, like a paint job. We walked up. Now there's like this big Governor's Island. They painted these big, they were like old, rusty, like shipping containers. I don't know, it might have held the mechanics for whatever. Now they're like detailed. There's nice Governor's Island, tall white font. And like, it's all made of wood. I'm like, what happened? And then sure enough, we walk around and it was closer to a resort than it was the residential base. Yeah. It was awesome. So I saw questions coming in. I'll tell you guys one more time, keep sending them. I'm going to give this man a lightning round, and then we'll get into some of your questions. So Chips Ahoy or Oreos?
Boy, I dig both of them. I'm going to go Chips Ahoy.
Nice. Burgers or dogs?
I've been into dogs lately.
Me too, ironically. Yeah. A little switch. Maybe it's a summertime kind of thing. How do you order your pizza? What do you put on your pizza?
I'm a plain guy.
So am I. Is that because you're close to New York?
Yeah, we got in New Jersey's in my town. I've got 5 great pizzerias, and and everybody, they do it just a little different. So if you like the crust a little thinner, you go to Branda's. Right. If you like it, a little more old school, you go to Enzo's. So yeah, the pizza is just off the charts here.
Nice.
And you don't realize how good it is until you go other places, and you just go, oh yeah, this isn't it.
Right, yeah. Like, I'm good on the street. What's your favorite Christmas movie? Or a must-watch, or one that you've seen recently. These aren't. It could be whatever.
Die Hard, I guess. It's as much as it's not.
Yes.
It's not, but it is.
It is.
And I didn't want to say. I was trying to think of something from when I was a kid that we watched, but we didn't watch anything. Charlie Brown, but no. Later on, where it started to go. No, this is a Christmas movie. We're doing this one again.
I'm going to say, 5 years ago, maybe it started becoming like a topic, and I have to find it again. I'm sure there's more than one version of this now, but some university, or it may have just been a student at a university, said, I'm going to prove that it is. And I'm going to butcher this, but he took maybe the top 10 universal, this is what we look at as Christmas movies, kind of tore them apart, what made a Christmas movie, and then put Die Hard through the same ringer. And my favorite quote was, Die Hard is more of a Christmas movie than It's a Wonderful Life. Because I've hated that movie since the day I saw it. I said, this is not Christmas, this is a child abuse movie, and it's horrible. The only cool thing is that the 2 guys were named Bert and Ernie. That's the only cool part of that movie when you're a kid. And it's just slow, and the narration, you don't really understand the meaning behind it, and you don't get the message as a 9-year-old. And then, and then someone put out, this proves it. And I'm like, let's see. I don't know what and they went through everything, mentionings of the word Christmas, holiday, snow, theme song, gifts, parties, like down the list. And then it was great. Across was Wonderful Life, and it had three things total. There was a Christmas tree at the end. Like there was a flashback to a holiday, but Die Hard was like boom, 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 boom. I mean, it closes with like White Christmas, and it's snowing, and there's the whole thing's a Christmas party. But I loved seeing like the matrix of it broken down was awesome. Star Wars or Star Trek?
I'm old enough. Star Trek, that was first.
What was the first movie you remember seeing in the theater?
The one that I remember, my dad taking me to, what was it called? Vanishing Point.
Okay.
So that was a movie in the 70s. I was old enough to go to a movie with my dad and see a woman with her top off. And Vanishing Point was a guy who tries to drive across the country. He's doing speed. Again, I didn't understand it at the time because I think I was 12. And he ends up crashing the car in the end. But it was I just remember it being like, holy smokes, movies can be like this. This is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I should change my question. The first movie you saw with tits. That should just be a new. I'll put that under this. I'll change this one.
That's a good one because that's the one that. Yeah, sadly, that's what popped into my head first.
That's how it goes. Mine was Jurassic Park, the first movie I remember seeing. And no real tits in that one, but all the dinosaurs were naked. Do you have a favorite piece of memorabilia or collectible or anything?
I'm not a collector. So, no, I don't have anything that stands out. I have stuff that I saved. My friends and I used to go regularly until the price got too outrageous. There was 16 of us. We rent a van, and we'd go in to see Yankees on the opening day.
Cool.
And they used to, back in the day, give you, a hat, a T-shirt.
Bobblehead, something, right.
So I hung on to that stuff. And, now that I'm older, so is that stuff. So, I have a couple of old hats. They don't mean anything to anybody, and there's no value other than to me. Yeah,
that counts. I mean, that's the, not to say no value, but like the Goosebumps thing, they're not going for $150 a piece, but it's like, no, I need to have them still. It makes perfect sense to me.
Right. And again, that's probably the best example, and it's what it means to me. It's not what it means to anybody else. I don't care. I just remember the day, the laughs that we had, and at the time going, wow, this is a really well-made hat. And now when you see it, you go, man, this is a piece of garbage.
Yeah, right. The giveaways are always like stamped with like the field name or the sponsor, whoever bought it.
Yeah.
If I say Pittsburgh, what do you think of?
Steelers.
Nice.
Yeah, Franco Harris. I was there at my grandmother's house the day he caught that ball, and me and my father both jumped out of the chair.
Nice. So a lot of Steelers stuff around. I'll show you at some point, but cool. Let me shift over to some. We'll treat these rapid fire as well. Some of the fan questions. This was on here. People asked this like 15 times during our conversation. Do you have a favorite cover?
It changes all the time. I'll tell you one. I'm going to pick one out. But if you and I talk again, I may give you a different one just because different ones float up. The heavy hitters, people all talk about the Haunted Mask, the Night of the Living Dummy, Welcome to Harlem. I love them. Yeah, they're very nice, but those are ones that get talked about a lot. I like the ones. So RL was writing the book at the same time I was doing the cover, and he would just give me. I get faxed the title of the book and a couple sentences. Okay. And for the most part, it was great. I get it. Monster Blood 2. It's a hamster. He eats the blood and he grows. Yeah, easy. Yep. But then every once in a while he would do one, and I would just sit there and shake my head and go, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Yeah, that's someone's question actually was, how much did you get to read before you were able to create the artwork? So you're kind of right on that same point right now. Yeah, right. So, I only got a little information, but I never got the important cool twist that happened at the end of every Goosebumps book. I didn't know what it was, so I'm not even hinting at it in my cover art. That's probably for the better. Didn't know. Yeah. But then. So one of them that always pops in my head is, because I remember reading it and going, I have no idea what we're going to do here. And that was, It Came From Beneath the Sink. Oh, yeah. And it was about a killer sponge. There's nothing scary about a sponge. Right. We're in the kitchen sink. I don't know what I'm going to do here. And but it kind of came around. And so when it got done, I went, all right, we got one here. That works. That works. Oh, hey, my son just walked in. You're supposed to be in bed. Well, come here. Come on. You get to say hi now. There you go. Hey, bud. All right, so let's do a couple more questions and figure out why this one's not in bed. Someone's asking if you would ship outside the U.S. as well. I I do on occasion. It's it's a little bit of a pain, but just tell them to email me. Just email me directly, and we'll see what we can do.
Is your email something they can just search for? Or do you want to tell
it's
them
right
here?
On my website. If you go to the website that you're going to post for the posters, there's a contact there, and this is not a big organization. I'm the guy who reads and do everything. So
cool. Okay, let's do one more then. Is it ever hard to create a cover? This is someone, SKX 2001, grew up collecting Goosebumps. The art always stood out. Was it ever hard to create one?
I've been blessed with the, first I'm working with R.L. Stine, and he's coming up with new and different ideas every time we had to do a cover. I've been lucky enough never to have that thing where I'm blanking.
Cool.
It just kind of happens. You say the words, and I see it in my head. It's, maybe a little foggy, but it's all right there. And then there's other times where the minute you say it, it's as clear as a television screen, and all I got to do is just get it down.
Transfer.
On paper.
Yeah. So, here's a good one. I like this question. I lost it. Where is it? Is the creature on the One Day at Horrorland cover alive or just part of the sign?
That's good.
Very specific question.
That's good. I made him to be part of the sign. That was the idea to me. But most people think it's something that's alive, and no, I wanted it to be part of the sign.
Debunked.
There you go.
It's official. Yep. Let's see. I've
never been asked that, by the way.
Okay, we're going to bring in, I never tried this, but I keep seeing it pop up. We're going to see if someone wants to go live with you real quick.
All right.
Keith, you're going to have like 20 seconds to ask a question. Let's see if it works. I've been on some other podcasts where it's just too much, like with bandwidth, but... Oh.
Got a partial.
All right, we're halfway there. Keith, you ask every video if you can be on it, and I give you this opportunity, and this is what I see. Would you keep the lens on, the lens cover on?
No, no, I'm sitting in the dark watching your show.
I don't want to know that stuff. All right, well, you're on with the man himself.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, I'm fantastic.
You better ask something quick, bro.
Oh man, you can put me on the spot. I'm sitting here thinking.
How about which one's your favorite, or like the one you remember the most? Let's do that.
Dude, we read so many in elementary school. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even put a number on it. I could tell you for multiple nights because of your books, I had to sleep on the floor in my mother's room. So, yeah. So I definitely scared myself a lot.
The 1-2
sorry
punch
to your mom.
Yeah. She definitely she would wake up in the middle of the night and step on my head and be like, "What are you doing in here?" And so now I can successfully blame you. Yeah.
There's a hand and it's coming out of the door and I don't know what to do.
Multiple nights of just pure terror and wet in the bed and just not knowing what to do there.
And that was in adulthood. Imagine in childhood too.
Exactly. So no, I mean, fantastic writing. It was a very fun part of my youth, and honestly, it's what got me reading. It really did, and then it progressed from there with multiple other things, but the books were always fantastic.
And that's a funny thing. You would think it would be so obvious to me. I want to get into doing book covers. I never thought of that I would be doing books for an age group where what I was doing was encouraging kids to read. And, I've had a number of parents come up to me, and of course now, you guys as adults saying, I didn't read well, I wasn't doing well in school, and these books got me to read, and it really kicked off, my reading ability and my love for horror. So, that's a sidebar that I had no idea was going to be there.
Because even if you walked past one and you saw your covers, like your art on the cover, it'd still make you stop and be like, what is this? It's not, like you said, it wasn't horror enough for you to go, ooh, I'm not reading that. But it was like, something about that dummy, man. I want to open this book and see what's going on in here.
And we were pumping them into your school library. And your school library wasn't known as the hippest place on the planet.
No.
So all of a sudden there's these very colorful, very wild things, amongst the rest of the ordinary stuff. So we were in a good position.
Yeah, I mean, the books definitely, beyond a doubt, got me reading. And I mean, on top of that, I mean, it definitely threw a lot of teachers for a loop to sitting in the library. They're looking at this kid. They're like, this kid's usually pushing over desks and doing
getting in fights.
Why is he in here? Yeah. And then,
Are you lost,
Yes.
Keith? Are you lost?
Yeah.
This is the library, honey. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just, it really helped progress. I mean, and now I'm the type of person that I read a book, every couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
Different.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a huge difference in expanding my mind, my imaginary mind that I now have at the age of 40, just made it all much better.
Awesome.
Good deal. Well, hey man, that'll do it. I really appreciate you coming on, and you got to see Keith's ugly mug too while we're at it. You got to be our guinea pig, Keith, too, to have I knew you could do, I think you could do 4. I think you could do 3 or 4, but
I'm happy.
Yeah, you're my little guinea pig. It'll work perfectly.
It worked out great. It was an honor, and all I can really say is thank you.
Very cool. Well, thank you. I mean, thanks for still looking back on this fondly and thinking that it's that you did plenty of stuff when you were 10 that's not cool anymore, and I'm glad to see that this stuff is still cool.
It is. It's very cool, and I plan on exposing my daughter to it. We read books in the evening.
Multi-generations. I gotta love that.
I can. For sure. Cool, Tim. Well, I'll update some info in the bottom of this video, guys. We'll get the link to the prints. You said your email is perfectly visible on that site.
Yep.
If anybody has questions on where to ship or anything specifically, they can get a hold of you there. And some people were putting that they didn't know this and they're already ordering prints. So coming on and explaining what's going on, people are already hitting order. So, well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks a lot, Tim, for hanging out with us and chatting.
Thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I'll be seeing you out there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Sounds good to me.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Take care, Tim.